It can be difficult to figure out what's going on behind the scenes as lawmakers and other elected officials draft important policies in Santa Fe that impact people across our state. One way to get public records is to officially request them through the New Mexico Inspection of Public Records Act. But accessing records through IPRA can be challenging. Correspondent Gwyneth Dolan brings us an insider perspective on transparency and public records this week in our latest report for the People, Power, and Democracy Project.
Tanya Maestas, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You are the director of the new Open Government Division at the Attorney General's office. What does your group do?
So the attorneys in the Open Government Division have some pretty exclusive roles, one of which is giving general counsel to boards, commissions, and state agencies throughout the state. Another duty that they're primarily responsible for is reviewing Inspection of Public Records Act complaints and Opens Meeting Act complaints. The attorneys in the division also draft the Attorney General's opinions that are requested by legislators and other public bodies. And now during the legislative session, they are primarily responsible for doing bill analysis.
Well, you mentioned that lawyers in your group give advice to boards and commissions and these other parts of government. But at the same time, you're taking complaints about government not giving information or allowing access to meetings. Isn't that a conflict of interest?
Generally not. We represent approximately 105 boards, commissions, and state agencies throughout the state. There are more than 300 that are not represented by the Attorney General's office. In the event that we do get a complaint regarding one of the commissions or boards that we do represent, it's just simply assigned to another attorney within the division.
And how many complaints do you see every year in your office?
Well, in 2015, now that we're here with the new administration, we received 90 OMA and IPRA, Inspection of Public Records Act and Opens Meeting Act complaints. This is a huge influx from the previous 2 years where they had approximately 40 to 45 complaints per year.
And why do you think that has increased so much recently?
I'd like to say that the citizens of New Mexico attribute it to the fact that Attorney General Balderas has come in as a position of enforcement, that he's come in saying that he's going to be tough on these laws and really enforce them and move towards a strong review of public bodies and their transparency. So that's what I think has been a huge increase in it.
What are some of the most common complaints you hear in your office about open government?
With regards to meetings under the Opens Meeting Act, one of the most common complaints that we get is executive session. What are the proper elements that allow a public body to go into executive session, and whether they properly discussed only those items in executive session? That's probably the most common complaint we get there.
New Mexico has some of the toughest open government laws in the country. But last year I did a project for the Center for Public Integrity that showed that New Mexico also has the widest enforcement gap. That's the distance between the laws that we have and the way they're actually enforced on the ground. Has there been an improvement since you've been there in enforcement, do you think?
I would say that enforcement has been a problem, and I would say that the laws themselves, as they're written, create a problem, not only for the Attorney General, but for all bodies and individuals if they should so choose to enforce the act. One of the enforcement provisions within the Opens Meeting Act is that if you were to allege a violation of the act, it can raise to be a misdemeanor. Well, these are individuals, volunteers, public body members who could be charged with a misdemeanor action for doing something in violation of the Opens Meeting Act. It's pretty harsh. And other than curing an Opens Meeting Act violation, there's not a lot of other recourse that whether the Attorney General or a specific individual really has. With Inspection of Public Records Act, there's no mandatory fines within there. We get asked that all the time. Why does the Attorney General not fine individuals for violating the Inspection of Public Records Act? The quick and easy answer is because there's not a provision within the act that allows for it. So I think those gaps within the statutes themselves create a problem for enforcement.
But I'm hearing you say that it's too harsh to charge someone with a misdemeanor if they prevent public access to a meeting, but at the same time, we should be levying fines for folks who don't provide access to public records?
Not per se. The two acts have to be held separately. Within the Opens Meeting Act, it is harsh to actually charge a misdemeanor for a volunteer board member for example, with a violation of the Act. But there's not a specific fine provision within the Opens Meeting Act. Conversely, the Inspection of Public Records Act doesn't allow you to charge someone with an action. So the differences in the two statutes there's a big difference there.
So what exactly is your office doing now to improve access to the papers and documents of government and to its meetings? What concrete steps are you taking to improve that?
There are some specific things that I've done within the division, namely is the time frame within which complaints are being resolved. That was one big problem. We have accelerated that time frame so that now there is at least draft determination on a complaint on my desk within 60 days of receiving a complaint or it being assigned to attorney within the division. So that really expedites the process and makes the public body more accountable, knowing that this is not something I did a year ago and haven't heard anything about it, something that you did recently and we intend to fix quickly.
You offered a new training this year on open government for state lawmakers exclusively. How did that go?
Well, we actually did a good government training that we set up for legislators. So it was not only OMA and IPRA, but also the Governmental Conduct Act. Under the Governmental Conduct Act, legislators are required to do 2 hours of ethics training biannually. So we hoped to get that in there as well. Unfortunately, we didn't have too great of a turnout.
And how many people came to the training?
We had 4.
Dan Boyd, thank you so much for stepping away from your desk at the Journal to talk to us.
You bet, happy to.
Governor Martinez campaigned on transparency, and after she was first elected, she took several bold moves to increase transparency in her office, in the executive branch, and in other parts of state government. But this is several years into her tenure now. How would you rate the Martinez administration on transparency these days?
I think the Martinez administration has learned that it's always easier when you're not in office to pledge transparency and to pledge openness. I think to their credit, they've made some improvements. They've released her calendar, made that public in response to some pressure. Generally, I found I get a lot of the information I need, but sometimes at some prodding, and I found that other folks don't always get the information they need.
Several years ago here at the Capitol, there was a dust-up over emails, and state lawmakers were protesting that their emails should not be public and saying they wouldn't give them up. Now it's a few years later, and we have seen those emails being released, so that's an improvement. How else would you describe the state of transparency in the legislature right now?
You know, I'd say on the one hand, in this building, you can walk up to a lawmaker and talk to them, and usually they're very willing to talk to you. So that accessibility is I think, a great thing in New Mexico. On the other hand, some of those official documents and emails from them, that's still a challenge. The shield, or whatever you want to call it, is still in place, and so getting things that they don't want you to obtain can be difficult.
I think many people were surprised on the first day of the session here to find that there were no seats left in the gallery. The public usually does get many seats in here, but they were almost all reserved by the governor, her staff, and other lawmakers. We often say that the state capitol is unusually open here in Santa Fe to the public and that it's very accessible. Do you think that's changing?
I would say I think the opening day was a bit of a surprise to us. Generally, it's always a packed house, but generally they've made accommodations, let people stand in the back, and kind of cracked down a little bit and had a lot of reserved seating. So I think that was maybe a bit of a surprise. But I think generally still, if you're willing to show up and wait for a meeting or talk to somebody, that it is still a very open building and accessible.
And if folks can't make it up to Santa Fe to see something here, there is webcasting, but it's not archived.
That's right. Yeah, you can watch the legislative webcasting, but if you miss it live, it's gone into the internet. There have been proposals to do just that, but none of them have been approved yet.
One of the things that Governor Martinez mentioned in her speech was capital outlay. And she specifically said that it should be transparent. We should see the list of projects that each lawmaker funds with the pool of money that they are given each session for infrastructure projects. Now, in smaller communities in New Mexico, state lawmakers come home after the session and they go to their daily paper or their weekly paper and they say, here's my list. This is what I brought home for you. But in Albuquerque, you represent dozens of lawmakers and you write about the state as a whole. So we don't see those same stories here. And that means capital outlay is a little bit less transparent. Martinez said she wanted those lists to be public. If that happens, what kind of stories would we see in the Albuquerque Journal?
That's a good question. I mean, we try to cover not just Albuquerque legislators, but legislators statewide, and right now that can be, that can be a flood of information, or in certain cases then trying to figure out who, slipped a certain project into the capital outlay bill right now is a tough task unless you have some inside information. So I think if we did have that, we could do more kind of stories, seeing if any legislators, funneled certain dollars for pork projects or for lobbyists or those kind of things would be, stories we'd be interested in.
Dan Boyd, thank you so much for coming and talking to us today.
You bet. My pleasure.